My name is John Howard, and I'd like to tell you about an invention I came up with called the runner's technique. But before I get into the technique, I just want to let you know a little bit about it. This technique works only if your patients have put in the time and discipline and training to run faster. You're not going to get the average guy who's been sitting on the couch their entire life, who claimed they were an athlete 20 years ago, and make them run some incredible time to qualify for the Boston Marathon. This technique will help your patients and your runners run faster if they put in the time. The runners that I tested this on have all been coached by professional coaches, every single one of them. The coaches, before they even coaches, were professional runners. So we knew exactly what these runners were capable of running before they even stepped on the track or stepped on the road or the trail. So I'm here to tell you that this technique works, and it works very well. Just a little bit of information about acupuncture and TCM, Chinese traditional medicine, and sports. It's been used for quite some time, and if any of you know about the 1993 Chinese women at the World Championships, you would know in a course of about 3 days, the Chinese women broke just about every world record, and even till today, some of those world records still stand. The mile record, or the metric mile, the 1500 meter record, was won in 3 minutes and 50 seconds, which equals to about a 4:06 mile, which is very fast for a woman. The 3000 meter record, which still stands, and the 10,000 meter record, which still stands. There's been some speculation that these women were using performance enhancement drugs, but it's never been proved, and I have to agree that those times are probably legitimate. They used a technique, or actually a herb called cordyceps, which is grown at the high Tibetan plateau, which actually will increase the mitochondria and the DNA into the cells. So with that being said, so let me tell you a little bit about my technique and how it's worked for me. Starting about 3 or 4 years ago, I started to test this on runners of all calibers, fast runners, slow runners, runners who just wanted to make the distance, and we started to see some really good results. Over time, I changed some of the points that kind of help with the biomechanics and also with the biochemistry of what I know about medicine. And I think I've came up with the points that are going to really, really do some good for some runners. I've been using this now, these points, strictly for about the last 2 years. It took me about 6 or 7 years to come up with the technique, but for about the last 2 years I've been using these points. Just recently I used it on a top executive at a major acupuncture supply company, and he improved his time over 5 kilometers, which is a little over 3 miles, by 4 minutes and 4 seconds, which was to him about a 12% increase of what he ran previous. And this gentleman told me that the last time he ran was about 5 months ago, and it was his fastest time. So from 5 months without running to now this, we took 12 minutes or 12% off his personal record by 4 minutes and 4 seconds. So let me just tell you a little about this, but real quick. The first thing I like to do, and excuse me as I get away from the camera here, is to, before I even start, is I like to, on both ears, before I even do it, stimulate 0.0 on each ear for 2 minutes. I wrote an article called Point Zero to the Rescue. There's something about using 0.0, it seems to balance out the entire endocrine system and the ear itself, and I like to do it. It's kind of like cleaning the chalkboard before you write a new math equation. There's 2 ways of finding it. I like to use a point finder. This is also a really cool point finder from Salatelic. You start, I don't know if you guys can see this, on the concha ridge, and you go up right to where it stops, and right there is the root of the helix, and that's 0.0. What I like to do is use 2 minutes at 10 hertz, or if you have a Noget frequency device, it's frequency C, which is 9.12 hertz. It's also the same. Do that for 2 minutes on each ear. And then what I do is I ask my patient or the runner if they're left-handed or right-handed. That makes a big difference because there's a total of 7 points. 7 points will go in the dominant side. So let's say your patient is right-handed. They will get 7 points or 7 needles in the right ear, and in the left ear they'll get 6, and vice versa. If they're left-handed, they'll get 7 points in their left ear and 6 points in the right ear. So if they're right-handed, I would start with the right ear first. So here are my points. I'm going to go through them individually, and these are the ones on the front part of the ear, because we have the front part and the posterior part of the ear, the sensory and the motor part, and this is the sensory part. Okay, so let me just get a little closer here. So the first needle I always start off with, as you see right here, and there is going to be a better picture of this, I apologize, along with an article, and it's going to be posted at the MAS, Maryland Acupuncture Society's website, our newsletter, and I'm also going to give it to the people at Lasso MS. And they're going to probably put it on their website. So the first point I always start off with is with this one on the bottom. This is called singular gyrus. This is a great point, and we use this in the battlefield acupuncture protocol. It has a lot to do with the pain and the manipulation of pain in the body. The next point I use, as you can see, this point right here, it's called ACTH. Got it? And it's right inside the concha. The third point, the thalamus point. Also has to do with regulation of pain in the body. Next point is the marvelous point. That has the ability to kind of regulate the blood pressure. Really good point. Right there, I'm sorry, right there, marvelous point. Coming up here, that is the cortisol point. When I have more time, I'll get into what all these points do and how they interact with each other, but the cortisol and ACTH play a really big role in stress and runner endurance. And the top point, as you see up here, this is omega-2. So those are all the 6 points in the front. Now I'm going to show you the one point I use on the posterior ear. And here it is. Let me see if you can see it. It's just right above where you would find Sanjiao 17. It's right in the depression of the ear. Some people know that as the cerebellum point or the thoracic point of the spine in the posterior part of the ear. For anybody who knows anything about running, you know that to run fast, this is going to sound a little strange to some, to run fast you have to relax. And it's kind of hard to relax when you're coming down the straightaway all out, but if you relax you can actually run faster. The points I went over you can find in different books. You can find in Dr. Raphael Noget's Auricular Therapy book, which is also a really good book. Or you can also find it in Dr. Terry Olson's Auricular Therapy Manual. Now for the devices I was telling you about. Before you even start, when you start talking about using the electrical devices, Lasso MS sells 3 different devices I want to show you. And again, I get no financial compensation from any of these companies that I'm telling you about. I'm just showing you where to get this information from. The Pointer Plus, I don't know if you can see this, it's in their catalog. That delivers 10 hertz. Okay. So that one only delivers 10 hertz. The next one is the Pointer XL, Pointer XL2. That delivers anywhere from 1 to 16 hertz. So if you want to use it for more than just the 10 hertz, you can use it for 1 through up to 16 hertz. And this other one here is this laser electrical device here. This is called the Point Pulse. This will give you 10 hertz, only 10 hertz, but it will also give 10 hertz of electrical stimulation if you want by itself, plus electrical stimulation plus a pulse of laser at 650 nanometers at less than 5 milliwatts. So you can get all 3 of these devices here from Lasso MS. And I apologize, this is their last year's catalog. I should have a new one. Those are the devices, but let me just tell you the most important thing is the needles that I use. And this is key, okay? Needles that I use are the salicylic ASP gold needles. ASP is semi-permanent. Just FYI, the A is French for aiguille, which is needle, a semi-permanent needle. You want to know a little bit about French. It's kind of late for me to go into which comes first, a verb or a noun. I don't want to mess it up and redo this video. So this is what they look like. Gold needles from Salitelic, right here. And I also have a video on some of my other two YouTube clips that shows you how to pop these out. You can pop them out with one hand like that and drop them on the floor, or you can pop them out like that. So anyway, some other needles you can use that I have used, but I can be honest with you, if you're going to run over 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, I should say over 5 miles, they start to fall out. And that is Saren's Pinex needles. These are some really cool little needles. If the ASP needles are a little too rough for your clients or patients, you can use the Pinex needles. I use 1.5 centimeter needles, and this is what they look like. I'm sorry, 1.5 millimeter needles, not centimeters. And they are the pink ones here. And just to show you what they look like, I'm just going to pop them out. This little tape right here. I'll put this on the point finder so you can see it, but there's a little needle in there. You can see that. As you can see, it's a little round disc and there's a little needle inside there. These work too. I like the ASP needles because the ASP needles, I can use those 24 hours before an event. I've gone as far as 48 hours before the event, and they've run well. The Saren Pinex, you have to put in about 5 to 10 minutes before the event, and they stay in for about 5 miles. But then when you start to sweat, the tape is not that strong and it falls off, but they still work well. Also, I'd like to tell you about it too. This technique is a one-shot deal. They don't have to come in your office a week before, 2 weeks before. If they want to come in the day before a race and say, hey, look, I'm running a 5K or a 50-mile trail run tomorrow, you can place them in that day and send them home. You can also do it 5 or 10 minutes before they run. I've done both, and they work just as well. This is a one-shot, one technique. So there you are. You can have it. It works well. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact us here at the Maryland Acupuncture Clinic, or feel free to send us an email through our YouTube videos. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope your runner patients enjoy this. And until next time, thank you for joining us.